Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Welcome to True Crime to Go. What can I get for you?
Yeah, I'm looking to rob an armored truck. Not the recent one, but give me a story about an old armored truck robbery.
Pull up to the second window and we'll see you next crime.
Welcome to True Crime to Go. I'm John, here with Jamie. I'm on the struggle bus today, brother.
Yeah, we've got some audio issues. We got some issues with John breaking his chair. It's been a long evening.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of recording, but that doesn't mean we don't have a good case here for you today. And John, I'm just going to cut this off at the pass. There was a Brinks truck robbery in Philadelphia last week. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about a different one.
Okay. Well, why don't you get the ball rolling?
So days before, there was a Brinks truck robbery in Philadelphia in April of 2026. Back on April 22nd, there was a man named Dante Shackleford that walked into a federal court in Philadelphia and pleaded guilty to the same crime, but that had happened well before this one. He was 26 years old, and he admitted to 1 count of the Hobbs Act robbery, 3 counts of attempted Hobbs Act robbery, and 1 count of carrying, using, and brandishing a firearm during the commission of a violent crime. He faces a mandatory minimum of 7 years in prison, up to life in prison. He's going to be sentenced in August 11th, 2026, and this was, in a lot of ways, a formality. The FBI had been watching him and his crew for months. They've been tracking cell phone records, surveillance footage, and they had built a case against Shackleford for over a year, going back to a crime that occurred also in Philadelphia last year. Shackleford's co-defendant, Mujahid Davis, 24 years old, was also from the area, and he had already pled guilty in March to 2 counts of robbery, 2 of attempted robbery, and 1 of firearms charge, again, from that same crime that happened last year, and he's going to be scheduled in August as well.
Yeah, he's going to be set to be sentenced on August the 4th. He also faces a mandatory minimum of 7 years, maximum of life.
What a range, by the way.
That's kind of crazy. Both men pleaded guilty before the United States District Judge Gail Wellheimer in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. The case was prosecuted by the Assistant U.S. Attorney Robert Eckert and Combina Coker. The investigation was conducted jointly by the FBI, Philadelphia Violent Crimes Task Force, and the Philadelphia Police Department as part of the FBI's Operation Summer Heat. I love that nickname.
Great name for an operation. This is a series of robberies, actually, that took place starting on July 15th of last year on Castor Avenue. This is the first incident in the federal indictment where Shackleford and associates robbed a Brinks truck employee who was making a delivery. Now, this attempt failed. The details of what went wrong, whether the guard retreated, whether the crew just aborted out of things going not according to plan, we don't know why this didn't work, but they were able to tie Shackleford and friends back to this attempt. No money changed hands, but this is one of the attempted robbery charges. And obviously, it didn't stop them from continuing to try and rob these trucks.
The second attempt was on July 22nd, 2025 in Elkins Park, Montgomery County, just across the Philadelphia city line. Again, Shackleford and others approached a Brinks employee. They had a firearm in hand. They pulled it on him, and they failed to take any money. The crew was 0-2 at this point, but they were not done. But they were learning. 3 weeks later in the same suburb, they were there again. So August 12th, 2025, the H Mart shopping center at the intersection of West Cheltenham Avenue and Old York Road in Elkins Park. H Mart is a Korean American supermarket chain. The shopping center is a busy commercial strip in a suburban neighborhood. And that's when a Brinks truck was parked outside making a scheduled delivery. 2 suspects approached the driver. One had a rifle, the other a handgun. They ordered the driver, this time a female, to hand over her firearm. She complied. They ended up taking her weapon and they took a bag of cash, and they drove away in what would later be identified as a stolen vehicle. The amount taken was approximately $120,000. The Brinks employee's gun was also taken. No one was physically injured. The getaway vehicle was later recovered, but the suspects were not.
John, if you're, and I know you're not a robber, you're not a criminal, but
As far as you know.
after 2 failed attempts, I think I'd probably give up.
Well, you know, third time's a charm.
Apparently it was for them. However, due to their consistency, the FBI got involved after this H Mart robbery, and that's when the case really started to ramp up and they created this big operation. They brought in the Bureau, and by late August, the FBI had released surveillance photos of the suspects and were offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to their arrest. They had cell phone records, they had social media, surveillance footage, and they felt like they were really starting to narrow down on this crew, but the crew had no idea that the FBI was on their heels until they went back out on October 3rd, 2025.
Yeah, and on this day, shortly before noon, a law enforcement source later told NBC 10 Philadelphia that police officers were nearby getting coffee when they spotted what appeared to be 2 or 3 men preparing to rob an armored truck. FBI agents who had been actively searching for the armored truck robbery crew were also in the area. The suspects spotted the police and they ran. And what followed was a chase that stretched from City Avenue through Philadelphia and into Montgomery County. The suspects were in a vehicle. Law enforcement from multiple agencies joined the pursuit. The suspects eventually turned down a road that ended up being a dead end, and they got out of a white Honda Civic and they fled on foot. But police found weapons inside the car, and the foot pursuit spread across a residential neighborhood. One suspect was found crawling through a backyard of a home after a nearby resident called the police to report someone hiding in their yard. 2 others were arrested at 52nd and Paris Street in West Philadelphia in a second vehicle the crew had staged nearby. By 12:45 in the afternoon, all 3 suspects were taken into custody.
As you might expect, there was a lot of collateral here. There was a shelter-in-place order given in the area. 8 schools were placed on lockdown. St. Joseph's University on City Avenue went into lockdown. People were getting alerts about dangerous criminals on the run. Some children thought they had an active shooter in their school. This is causing chaos, complete chaos in this area. And thankfully, they were able to take down the perpetrators without incident. Nobody was severely injured. The crew's last attempted robbery, this one that ended on a chase, a foot pursuit, and 3 arrests, had come within seconds of not happening at all if that group of officers getting coffee hadn't seen these guys making their move toward this truck. So all the work the FBI and local authorities had put in had set them up in such a way that they were prepared to look for this. But if they hadn't done all that prep, this is something that could have been ignored and they could have pulled this off. Somebody could have got killed. I mean, who knows? But, you know, you think about, I don't know, in my mind, sometimes I'm able to say they robbed a Brinks truck. Traumatic for the driver. That's nobody's money. Like, that's fairly victimless. Not really true, but I think it's easier to justify than somebody getting killed. But very grateful that they did spend their time on this. And again, these pleads went in a few days before there was another big robbery, which may or may not be related to their crew.
Yeah, these guys have all pleaded guilty. We're still awaiting sentencing. So as we said earlier in the episode, it's a minimum of 7 years up to life. So I'm interested to see what the sentences will be.
7 years to forever, to eternity.
You know, it's funny. I almost texted you the other day. I thought about committing a crime. Not going to lie. I saw a truck sitting outside of a Save-A-Lot. It was not an armored vehicle dropping off cash. Rather, It was a Bluebell ice cream truck.
Yeah, I thought you were going Little Debbie, but I get it.
Now, there was a Little Debbie guy there too. Actually, the guy that goes to our church was dropping off Little Debbie's. But man, some Bluebell ice cream on a hot spring day, that's what the belly needs.
Victimless crime. No, I'm glad they caught this one. The fact that there was another one that was successful last week is also fascinating to me, waiting for some more details to come in there, but can't wait to talk about that one at some point too.
Have you seen the videos floating around social media where the armored truck is being pursued and shot at, and the driver of the armed truck has to get away from him? It's insane. I'll have to send that to you.
Yeah, it's really scary, but it's also an armored truck.
Not a job I would want.
No thanks. Like, I'm driving a truck so people can shoot at me and not hurt me. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But this has been a crime story in 10 minutes or less.
Would you like crime with that?
You've listened to True Crimecast, distributed by Stoveleg Media. Check out stoveleg.com to find out more about your hosts and to find other podcasts to listen to. Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.